Are we real? It's the kind of late-night question that hits different when you really think about it. But here's where it gets wild. What if I told you that some of the world's leading scientists have discovered patterns in the laws of physics that look suspiciously like computer code? Think about it. Every single thing you're experiencing right now, the screen you're looking at, the chair you're sitting in, even the thoughts in your head, might all be incredibly advanced lines of code in the universe's most sophisticated program. And no, this isn't just some sci-fi fantasy. We're talking about hard scientific evidence that's making even the most skeptical researchers scratch their heads. Today, we're diving into simulation theory. Not the surface level what if we're in the Matrix stuff. We're going straight to the cutting edge research that's challenging everything we thought we knew about reality. By the end of this video, you might never look at the world the same way again. But before you dismiss this as just another wild theory, let me introduce you to philosopher Nick Bostrom, who dropped a bombshell that shook the scientific community. He pointed out something that seems obvious once you hear it, but it's absolutely mind-bending. Here's the deal. Either advanced civilizations can never create realistic simulations, which seems unlikely given how fast our own technology is advancing, or they all decide not to create them. Also pretty unlikely. I mean, wouldn't you want to simulate your ancestors? Or, we're almost certainly living in one right now. Wait, what? Yeah, let me break down why this is such a big deal. If even one civilization out there figures out how to create realistic simulations, they'd probably make thousands or millions of them. And if that's true, there would be way more simulated minds than real ones. Do the math, and suddenly it becomes way more likely that we're one of the countless simulated beings, rather than one of the few real ones. So what does this mean? Well, we might be part of some advanced civilization's attempt to understand their own history, like a cosmic-scale anthropology project. Or maybe we're characters in the most elaborate game ever created. It's like Plato's ancient idea of people seeing only shadows on a cave wall and thinking that's reality. Except now those shadows are lines of code. But here's where it gets even weirder. But what if we've been thinking about this all wrong? Here's a twist that'll melt your brain. What if there's no player behind the game at all? Back in 1969, when we were just figuring out how to get to the moon, computer scientist Konrad Zuse came up with something revolutionary. He suggested that the universe itself might be one giant computation. Not created by anyone, not controlled by anything, just pure mathematics in action. Think about it like this. Every single thing around you, from the atoms in your coffee cup to the stars in the sky, might just be bits of information processing itself. Physicist Seth Lloyd took this even further. He proposed that the entire universe is basically a massive quantum computer, running the most complex code imaginable. But here's the kicker. It's not running on anything. It is the computer. This changes everything. We're not talking about some advanced aliens or future humans running an ancestor simulation anymore. Instead, imagine reality as the world's most sophisticated software program that wrote itself. No programmer needed, just the laws of physics executing like lines of code. And this is where things get really trippy. If this is true, then asking whether we're in a simulation is like a video game character asking if they're in a real game or a simulated game. When everything is code, does the question even make sense anymore? But here's the million-dollar question. Is there any actual evidence? Are there any glitches in the matrix? Well, scientists are looking, and what they're finding is absolutely fascinating. Think about your favorite video game. Even the most advanced ones have limits to their resolution. You can zoom in far enough to see the pixels. Now, what if our universe has pixels too? Scientists think the smallest possible unit of space, called the Planck length, might be exactly that, the resolution limit of our reality. In 2012, researchers even tried to catch the universe rendering these pixels by looking at high-energy cosmic rays. They didn't find anything. But that just means if we're in a simulation, it's running on something way more powerful than we can imagine. But here's where it gets really weird. You know how games save processing power by only rendering what the player is looking at? Well, quantum physics shows us that particles don't have definite properties until we measure them. It's like reality itself isn't fully rendering until someone's watching. Coincidence? Maybe. But wait, it gets even better. Physicist S. James Gates found something in his equations that made his jaw drop. Hidden in the mathematics that describe our universe, he found computer code. Not just any code, the exact same error-correcting code your browser uses to fix typos when you're watching this video. Just sitting there, written into the equations of physics. Let that sink in. The same code we invented to make our computers work better was already built into the laws of nature. It's like finding a Microsoft logo written in the stars. And just when you thought things couldn't get stranger, let me introduce you to the holographic principle. Imagine you could take everything in your room, all 3 dimensions of it, and store it as information on your walls, like a super advanced 2D poster that somehow contains all the 3D data. Well, physicists think our entire universe might work exactly like that. Everything we see, touch, and experience might be a 3D projection of information stored on some vast cosmic surface. But here's something even more mind-bending. Scientists have noticed that the basic rules of our universe seem perfectly fine-tuned for life to exist. Change any of these rules even slightly, and stars wouldn't form, atoms wouldn't stick together, and we wouldn't be here watching this video. It's like someone carefully adjusted all the settings to make sure life could emerge. Now, there are 2 ways to look at this. Either we're just one of countless universes with different settings, and naturally we find ourselves in one where life is possible, or someone programmed this simulation specifically to create observers like us. But hold up. Before you get too excited about being a character in some cosmic video game, there's a major problem. And it's a big one. When scientists tried to figure out how much computing power you'd need to simulate even a tiny part of our universe, they ran into a wall. To accurately simulate just a few hundred particles, you'd need a computer bigger than our entire observable universe. Not just bigger, way bigger. It's like trying to run Cyberpunk 27 on a calculator from the 1970s. The numbers just don't add up. But then again, there's another problem that keeps scientists up at night. If we're in a simulation, where are all the glitches? The laws of physics work exactly the same way, whether you're looking at a galaxy next door or 1 billion of light years away. No loading screens, no lag, no patches or updates. It's almost too perfect. And this brings us to a bigger issue. How could we ever prove we're in a simulation? Any evidence we might find could just be part of the simulation itself. It's like trying to prove you're in a dream while you're still dreaming. Some scientists say this makes the whole idea more science fiction than science fact. But maybe we're thinking too small. What if the truth is even stranger than we imagined? Sure, we could be part of some advanced civilization's history project, or a self-running cosmic computer program. But let's get really weird for a second. What if you're the only real consciousness here, and everyone else, your family, your friends, even me making this video, are just incredibly sophisticated NPCs? Or maybe we're all real, but we're being run by an AI that's more powerful than we can imagine. Or here's the wildest possibility of all. What if each of us is actually being controlled by a player in a higher reality, like the ultimate cosmic video game? Think about it. Every decision you've ever made, every random thought you've ever had, was it really you? The truth is, here's the thing about simulation theory. The deeper we dig, the more questions we find. Could we ever prove it? Are there hidden shortcuts in how our reality works? If we are in a simulation, what does the real world even look like? And could we ever contact whoever's running it? But there's something even more mind-blowing to consider. Right now, we're getting closer and closer to creating our own simulated worlds. Our video games, our AIs, our virtual realities, they're becoming more sophisticated by the day. And that means every step we take toward creating realistic simulations makes it more likely that someone else has already done it to us. Think about that for a second. Every time we create a more realistic video game, We're essentially increasing the odds that we ourselves are living in one. And here's the final twist that'll keep you up tonight. If we do create conscious beings in our simulations one day, wouldn't that mean we've become the very simulators we've been wondering about all along? Maybe that's the real message hidden in the code of our universe. Not whether we're in a simulation, but whether we're about to create one.